All right, people, now for the real show, the return of the MCU. Another year where the MCU finally has multiple entries after the strike year. And now, after Donald Trump's latest proclamation as of
Oh,
yesterday,
yeah.
we may have our third major movie disruptor event of the 2020s. First, it was COVID. Then, it was the strikes. Now, will any foreign film be allowed to enter America? Tune in next time to find out what the update is going to be.
Even if they're not foreign films, if they're just shot outside the US.
Well, I mean, it's certain of the wording as well too. I just found it funny. That's just one of those things where I just looked at that and I'm like, ha! Oh man, the timing couldn't be better. I even made a joke about it in my review of this. I'm like, well, now it's just Fantastic Four. And wait, what? Trump declared that all movies being filmed in foreign countries are illegal. What are going to get 100% tariffed? I mean, obviously, I'm sad because I'm like, if that means that we can't watch the Odyssey, I mean, I'm sure. Don't worry. This will get fixed. This will not actually be happening. So, but in the meantime, we have Thunderbolts, a movie that I think ended up becoming a lot more important as time went on than they were initially expecting. I think initially they were just being like, oh, this is just going to be like this is our Suicide Squad. We're just gonna put together all the side characters and have them all feel dejected and rejected, and then they just kept having bomb after bomb after bomb. I think this was originally when Blade was supposed to open. No, originally this was supposed to be Kang Dynasty when that was gonna happen before it got shifted to Doomsday, and now this movie kind of is being unintentionally hailed as like the next MCU saving grace. Because like I said, we got one good effort per year, as I've been saying since we've been exploring this new phase of Marvel post-COVID. We got No Way Home in 21, Wakanda Forever in 22, Guardians 3 in 23, and then Deadpool Wolverine was literally the only MCU movie that we got last year. And this is the first competently made one, I will say, that we've gotten so far this year after the absolute disaster that was Brave New World. Like, I cannot stress enough how much of a fucking shit show that movie was. And so, obviously, it's going to be natural that by comparison to the last couple of shit efforts that we've gotten, people are going to be praising the shit out of this movie because it's a competently made movie with a competent director, an excellent cast. Like, truly, this is one of the, taking aside the characterizations and certain kind of little Marvel problems that I have with it, this is one of the best casts they've assembled in a while. Florence Pugh, Wyatt Russell, Dave Harbour, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Lewis Pullman, giving a scene-stealing goddamn performance. Probably some of the best casting that the MCU has done in a long, long time.
And he was a recast.
Exactly, and a recast as well. Yeah, so real quick, going into this, like, what were your thoughts on Thunderbolts? I feel like it's safe to say that, like, going into this year in general, this was the big question mark because Brave New World had already been, like, kind of like stricken by so many reshoots and so many problematic test screenings that it was kind of DOA. But Fantastic Four, that felt like there was enough promise, especially once we got a trailer and once we got a sense of what the visual style was going to look like, and once we understood, that one's like really going to pay homage to like the original like kind of a 60s comic book. Fantastic Four being Marvel's first super team as well. But Thunderbolts was always kind of a little bit of a red flag as question mark, especially once they revealed the roster. We had a feeling we knew who was going to be in there, like based off of how they'd hinted at all the way back in Phase 4, which even though it's been 3 years, 4 years, the majority of these guys were introduced. It feels like it's been over 10 years. The Ghost also in this movie was introduced pre-COVID. It introduced an Ant-Man and the Wasp too. And if you think about it too, is really the only true villain of the Thunderbolts. So, like I said, you have the Yelena Belova and Alexei Shostakov characters, portrayed respectively by Florence Pugh, Dave Harbour, introduced in Black Widow. You had Wyatt Russell's John Walker, U.S. agent, introduced in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Taskmaster also was introduced in Black Widow. So, in a way, kind of similar to like how Brave New World was a Hulk sequel, this was really like a Black Widow sequel because this is the first time that you're seeing these characters actually be used in something outside of just randomly showing up on a Disney Plus show that you weren't expecting them to show up on. But there's a lot that's changed behind the scenes with Marvel as well, where they're trying to get back to their roots of like, okay, we're only doing like a few movies and like 2 TV shows per year. We're really trying to put the effort back on quality over quantity, where it felt like just 3 straight years of them just pumping out effort after effort after effort. And while this movie certainly does not go in directions that I was expecting, which does make me happy, it does still, I do need to get out of the way that it's not perfect. I don't love this movie the way that everybody else does. I also have a couple of controversial choices where, again, just based off not just Phase 5, which, again, this is the cap to Phase 5, which is still insane, but also in comparison to all the MCU movies that we've gotten post post-COVID. This is not better than Guardians 3. This is not better than No Way Home. This is not better than Wakanda Forever. This is not better than Deadpool Wolverine. Controversial choice also because, again, I've come around to this movie a lot. I think Eternals might be better than this movie. I'm going back and forth right now. But for starters, Luke, what did you think of Marvel's Thunderbolts, asterisk, which as we now know is they are the new Avengers? I'm going to get to that because I have some questions there.
Yeah, I saw like I don't know, like over a year ago that it was going to be the Dark Avengers. Like, oh, that's interesting. But then as it neared, I'm like, okay, New Avengers makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, like it was announced like years ago when they first showed the team. Like, oh, so there's 3 super soldiers on the team.
Right.
That's interesting. But now the characterization obviously made up for it. I'm like, okay,
Yes,
it works. Like hats off to all you wonderful writers. But yeah, as it got nearer, my expectations seemed to go. Everyone else seemed to kind of, oh, this actually looks really good. Great team building stuff. And you had a good, interesting villain idea. And I saw it, and it was as good as I was hoping it for. It's not like perfect. Like a lot of people are putting like top 5 MCU, top 1 MCU. I'm like, okay,
not even close.
Hold your brakes. I don't think it even has a second act. But
it doesn't. That's the other thing we're gonna get into as well. This movie is like, it's real. It's
act
half
1,
a movie, basically.
Act 1, Act 3, like
literally.
But no, I really enjoyed it. It's good action. It's practicality over green screens. It's character over cheer moments, which was my biggest takeaway. Like it spends the time with the characters instead of like, hey, we're gonna pause for 3 seconds after this character shows up for the audience to cheer. Look, Deadpool Wolverine, it kind of works in that, but this one, I think is better than Deadpool Wolverine. But for me, it was a character work. Like Yelena got the lion's share of the character work, her and Bob. But again, that trickled down into everyone else, and I think focusing on Yelena works really well, and Florence Pugh does that performance really well. So yeah, that's my biggest takeaway, and I'm seeing it again today, so I'll get a better opinion on that. But I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the near future of the MCU after it.
It's funny because it's another couple instances where, again, just because of how we've been conditioned to approach MCU movies now post-COVID, where pre-COVID it felt like all that we could do was just get more and more excited for every MCU effort that they that they released. Because again, with a few exceptions, they really didn't miss. Iron Man 2, a little bit of a weird reception to Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, but for the most part, the MCU, obviously the flack against Captain Marvel, but that still made $1 billion. For the most part, the MCU did not miss when it came to movies pre-COVID.
At least once it got going, the first
yes.
phase or so.
Which again, and I still give credit to the first phase. I still think the first phase is flawless. I'll go back to that. That's like, again, the baseline for all of the MCU, and for the most part, it's like in terms of like building up to a massive movie event, like you can't get much better than that first phase. This like I said, post the MCU, it's been a little bit of a mess. We've already talked about plenty of the issues that have plagued Marvel since COVID, so I won't go too much into that. With this movie, it's a couple of things. What I noticed here is, you're right, I noticed a couple of instances where this movie could have gone really wrong and not had the desired effect. It's a couple of things that saved it. One, in a weird way, it being as short as it is actually a strength, because like you said, what it may lack in traditional movie storytelling and more than makes up for in character work. And that I got to give a lot of props to Joanna Callow for, the co-creator and co-writer of The Bear, alongside Christopher Storer, who also co-wrote this script with Eric Pearson, who's been a longtime Marvel veteran. I got to give a lot of props to her, because I can tell that like all the juicy character moments that really are what sets this movie over the edge and makes it more than just the traditional Marvel effort, those all came from a combination of her and the director Jake Schreier. Like, this is Marvel kind of in a way like doing what it used to do, which is pulling from but in a way better, where Marvel its approach previously was to get all these indie directors who would have like one breakout hit at Sundance, and next thing you know, they'd be directing a Marvel movie. And this time as well, that seems to have switched to TV, where again, Feige's approach to Marvel in the Chapek era, unfortunately, when he was spread so thin that they were just churning out effort after effort after effort, and he didn't have as much time to oversight and kind of curate each project and make it as good as possible the way that he did prior to COVID. And so That's what resulted in some very, very wonky efforts, like the creators of WandaVision not knowing that it was even going to lead into Multiverse of Madness. Multiverse of Madness, they were already in the middle of filming before they even know that WandaVision is going to end. No Way Home is originally supposed to be set after Multiverse of Madness. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they have to reshoot their entire third act because of COVID. And so, again, you had all of these kind of problems plaguing it. And so you had all of these new characters that were introduced that it felt like, you didn't really know kind of what to do with and where to go with them. But I give this movie props for being able to take, again, these characters that we've barely spent any time with. I feel like probably the most developed of these characters that we already know is Wyatt Russell's John Walker, the U.S. agent, who for me was one of the scene-stealing breakouts of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, what prevented that show from being an ultimate shit heat. And also, I give credit to this movie for taking characters that otherwise probably would have been really annoying and being like, what the fuck are they, like the Red Guardian and Dave Harbour just hamming it up and being like the embarrassing dad, and the Ghost, like I said, the only actual villain here, but was a villain in an Ant-Man movie that was kind of ultimately forgettable, but ultimately more of a tragic case. They have Taskmaster here for all of 5 seconds. I think everybody was able to see through the marketing and being like, Taskmaster ain't in the rest of this movie. They're not, which does kind of suck because Taskmaster is not only a badass villain with a really good skill set, but also is a pretty crucial character in the comics and member of the Thunderbolts as well. So I was kind of a little bit sad, but I'm like, look,
I think they kind of screwed the pooch with her appearance in Black Widow, and that didn't really resonate with a lot of people. So I guess maybe the original plan was to have her be like throughout the movie, but then they thought, okay, there's a little too. I think the balance of characters is good. If you throw one more in there, like it kind of decreases everyone else's arc and screen time.
Right.
So.
It's also like you got to swap it out for somebody else too. And you also have the Bucky element as well, which we're going to get into also. But again, it's all setting up for, the general premise is pretty simple. Again, it's all of these kind of, all of these guys have been Black Ops operatives working for Valentina Allegra, Julie Louis-Dreyfus character, who was introduced all the way back in Falcon in the Winter Soldier when she first approached John Walker after he was rejected as Captain America and made him the U.S. agent. You have all these characters that are lured into this one setting by Valentina in order to systematically be killed because she's trying to tie up loose ends because she's being investigated by the government for some off-site project. They discovered that one of the test subjects of this project Centuries, it's revealed to be, survived, that being the character of Bob, who, again, as soon as I heard it was Bob, so I'm like, oh, Bob Reynolds. I'm like, oh, the Sentry. Oh my God, they're finally actually doing it. Who is, I'll get into it, but the Sentry is a crucially important and very powerful Marvel character. We're going to get into him as well. So they find this guy. They realize they've been set up. They escape. What's it called? Red Guardian and Bucky join them along the way for the fun. As they eventually go and confront Valentina, they end up fighting Bob once he's revealed to be the Sentry. And
very good
very good one-take scene. And Marvel hasn't had one of those in a while. It was a great demonstration of the Sentry's powers as well. And then you have, the final confrontation, which I'll admit, for all the people pre-COVID who complained about Marvel third acts, this was certainly not a conventional Marvel third act, to say the least. And again, a very, very good use of a lot of TV tropes and an unconventional blockbuster way, which I get. That's really what I give this movie props for, is when this movie does not act like a conventional Marvel blockbuster, when it does have those juicy character moments, and once it gets into this movie, I will give also a lot of credit for actually trying to, again, go much, much deeper. This movie is trying to say a lot about depression, about, needing a purpose, not being isolated and alone. That's really where this movie strives and is at its best ultimately, because again, this is a group of characters who, for the most part, have kind of been left behind, have kind of been forgotten. They're trying to figure out, what their place is. Are they villains? Are they Black Ops operatives? Are they anti-heroes? Because Yelena's been trying to do, they set up that her struggle is that since, she's been working for Valentina, she's been trying to do the whole Black Ops, super spy operative, and it's just not working for her. Like she said, she goes to work, she gets drunk, she stares at her phone, and then it's wake up the next day, rinse, repeat. Kind of a very relatable struggle, if you ask me. Those are the moments where the movie really, really strives. Where it doesn't work as well as when you have the classic, goofy Marvel comic lines, which, again, we loved those lines pre-COVID, and now they're starting to feel a bit stale. I feel like it's one of those instances where I'm like, I think I'm starting to, show my age a little bit and how long I've been watching these movies, where every time they crack a stupid one-liner, whether it's John Walker saying something idiotic, and the Ghost just, the Ghost is basically just there to, provide, punchbacks to John every time he says something stupid, and then Yelena's like, guys, pull your heads out of your asses, let's start working together. So I don't necessarily know how well this team works, especially given that like they're pretty dysfunctional for the majority of it, and especially since again they're pretty set up. It's very obvious that Marvel is trying to copy what Gunn did with Suicide Squad here. Like it's
Yeah.
very very plain and clear.
Like
So
no one's as good as James Gunn as this
no,
kind of thing. Like it's very good. It's not Guardians Suicide Squad levels of good. Like you can emulate, but you can't
exactly.
replicate with the James Gunn type stuff. But
Yeah.
I give them a good effort for it.
Yes, and then of course you have the big reveal where, for the longest time since the asterisk was put on the end of the title, at I believe it was last year's Comic-Con, and everyone's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, what does the asterisk mean? Oh, are they really the Thunderbolts?" Blah blah blah, and then the reveal at the end is like, "Oh, they're the new Avengers." The Thunderbolts. They're not really like the Thunderbolts in the sense of the Marvel comics. Where in the comics, the Thunderbolts were a team of supervillains that ended up changing their identities to heroes in order to pass off as as heroes. They were led by Baron Zemo, and for the longest time, it was rumored that Baron Zemo would have a role in this. Unfortunately, that was proven false. Again, I have a feeling that there were a couple of initial cuts and scripts of this that included a lot more characters that were actually in this that they ended up cutting. I think for the better, because this was not the type of movie that needed a lot of connections to the rest of the MCU, and other than what we got, which I think was really good, because again, like they're making allusion and reference to the fact that these are all characters that have kind of been around for a little bit. Like I said, the Ghost goes all the way back to pre-COVID days, Ant-Man and the Wasp. So, and is also technically kind of the only villain on here. But so this isn't really a team of villains. This is a team of, again, anti-heroes, Black Ops spies, again, rejects that have kind of been left behind. The Red Guardian
Scrappy anti-heroes.
Exactly.
As Red Guardian calls them.
Yeah, the Red Guardian is running a limo service. John Walker. It's revealed that his wife and kid left him. Understandably so. The Ghost and Yelena have both been just like running black, and now we find out Taskmaster as well have just been running Black Ops missions for Valentina for presumably what do they say, like three? It's been 3-4 years, something like that. Since
It's been
the
a
events
while.
of Hawkeye. Yeah, I don't know. The MCU timeline is all kind of fucked up, anyways, because Avengers Endgame takes place in 2023, and we're now 2 years past that. So I feel like every time we get an MCU movie in the year that we think it is, it's that we got to like add on 2 years. So this is probably like 2027 or something like this by now. They do make reference to this is shortly after the events of Brave New World, because Valentina very comically brings up like, yeah, we also had a president that turned into a Hulk not even a couple of months ago. So I thought that was kind of funny.
I think that's probably like the best way to have the interconnectivity. Like just mention something in passing from the last movie, and then maybe tease the next one in the post-credit scene, which is what we want. Like there was that article where everything's coming out, like how Kevin Feige was spread so thin.
Yep.
People don't want Marvel to be homework, and this is the way to do it. Have the Disney Plus shows, but not have them be crucial to the movie timeline.
Right.
So I think they're learning their lessons.
Right, and I think
everything in that is just.
And I think, too, that this is going to be the last time, really, because this was really the last ever. Look, we had to get through Brave New World, unfortunately, which, again, still weirdly, I still can't get over the fact that movie was more of a Hulk sequel than a Captain America movie, but while also incorporating elements from Eternals. This movie, again, is the one that I feel like is the last one that really incorporates like a lot of the elements from the Disney Plus shows. Again, John Walker is introduced in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yelena pops up going after Hawkeye in the first season of Hawkeye. Again, the Black Widow, the fact that this is probably the closest sequel to the Black Widow movie that we've had since then. This is the first time that we've seen those characters pop up on the big screen ultimately. Also, Julie Louis-Dreyfus as Valentina, who was also introduced in Falcon and the Winter Soldier as kind of like the new, like, anti-Nick Fury Shadow Ops, putting together, this Black Ops team behind the scenes. It was so funny, too, also, because after having watched the first 4 seasons of Veep, and kind of seeing how this is kind of like the next natural transition, where again she's shown to be a scheming, conniving politician. The only difference is in Veep, it takes place in reality, where every politician is a moron who thinks that they actually know what they're doing. Here, she's a little bit more of a manipulative villain. We get a little bit of her backstory into once Sentry touches her, and you see like kind of like a little bit of her inspiration, why she does the things that she does. Like I said, this movie did a very, very good job with its characters. And so I understand why people are gravitating towards this, because it probably is the most character-focused Marvel movie since Guardians 3.
It's very lost of them with
Yes.
the flashbacks.
Very,
so,
very
lost in
It is so perfect how Lost is seeped this way into everything that we're doing. First Mission Impossible, now Marvel. I wonder what the next thing we'll see where Lost is incorporated in some way. But I like that this movie's use of kind of traditional mechanisms, or the way in which they utilize the flashback mechanism is very, very interesting and excellent. And it's a good way to kind of, clue us in visually to what these characters have been up to and what's kind of going on with each one of these characters that happen to tell us and dump all this exposition. And yeah, you do have like the little bit of the ham-fisted, Disney messaging at the beginning from Red Guardian, telling, and obviously, again, a lot of the characters being like, what's our purpose? We're losers, shit like that. Again, shit that we've seen before, but again, because it's such a different set of characters, because this is more Suicide Squad-esque, because these guys are like actually anti-heroes, like actual like losers. Like, I'm sorry, like John Walker is the discount Captain America. Red Guardian was Russia's attempt to replicate that. Really, the only hero, quote unquote, hero that we have is Bucky, and even Bucky, in a weird way, you kind of even understand why he ends up teaming up with these guys. Where Bucky, again, this is the first time that we've really seen him since Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Sam is the new Captain America, and he's kind of left Bucky behind. He's tried his hand at being a senator. It's later revealed later on that he does not know what he's doing in the political arena. And also, we have a little bit of a take on him where he's like, oh, wow, packets, grand juries, trials. Yeah, that's really going to do a lot in terms of taking down Valentina. So he basically kind of takes it upon himself. And then once he gets involved, once he discovers these guys, again, he knows John from their time in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He's basically and once he realizes that, like, oh, everything that they're saying is true, he kind of like, Bucky's able to like find a common cause again, ultimately. So I'm glad, because I was starting to wonder, as I had questions, obviously, when he was announced as part of the slate. I'm like, Bucky, why? But then I thought about it. I'm like, oh, actually, that kind of makes sense, because if Sam is the new Captain America, he's got Joaquin, he's recruiting this new team of Avengers, or supposedly so he says. This hasn't actually happened yet, and Bucky's kind of like, I'm kind of here. I don't really know what my purpose is. So there's some quite funny lines where he spills some chicken on his brand new white shirt. He's the very funny gag of washing his metal arm in the dishwasher. I thought that was quite good. What did you think of Bucky's of this being the next stage in Bucky's journey? I also saw a thing where it's like, Sebastian Stan is one of only 3 actors alongside Tom Hiddleston and Tom Hiddleston. Oh, sorry, I'm wrong. No, actually, yeah. Well, no, one of only 3 actors that's been in every phase of the MCU so far. Him, Tom Hiddleston, and Chris Hemsworth. I forgot, because Samuel L. Jackson was not in Phase 4 at all, because we didn't see him again until Secret Invasion. Right. So, yeah. So, what do you think of Bucky? The fact that Sebastian Stan, his long tenure in the MCU, and also kind of, again, the fact of like Sebastian Stan has some pretty major success outside of the MCU. He's an Oscar-nominated actor now because for playing Trump.
Yeah, people have been saying like, he's the one MCU actor that has like evolved past the MCU, and he's doing really good in these awards type movies. But Bucky, I remember Sebastian Stan, he signed like some mega, like 9 movies back in like that was like around like Winter Soldier.
That would make sense. That would make sense.
Like they had him in for the long haul. I don't know if that has run out by now. I'm guessing it will run out with Secret Wars.
If it was around when Winter Soldier happened, then it'll probably run out during Secret Wars, because if you count all the projects, Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, that's 4. Because again, we don't count cameos, so we don't count the cameo at the end of Black Panther. Falcon and Winter Soldier is 5. This would be 6. So then Doomsday and Secret Wars would be 7 and 8.
Something like that. So I really enjoyed him. I like the aspect of like, okay, he's trying to start something new. He's trying to be a congressman, but ultimately, no, he is a soldier. His place is not in the courtroom. It's on the battlefield. And if he can grow into his own without being just the Captain America sidekick, I think that's even better. He's kind of been doing that, but now that Sam Wilson, as you said, he's off doing his own thing, assembling his team. Bucky's now sort of assembling his team, and by the end, he's fully within the new Avengers regime. So I really enjoyed him. I think he's gonna play a good part in at least the next one. I don't know. Secret Wars is Secret million people in that.
Secret Wars, it literally, like, nobody knows what could happen there, because even if you've read the comic, the comic still doesn't really prepare you for what's happening. The comic just gives you like a baseline idea as far as what we should expect.
And I really enjoyed his banter with like Red Guardian, like the one scene, like, great. So what serum did you get? I don't know, regular Hydra. Oh, Hydra, fancy. Or what's the plan? The plan?
Yeah, I also
cuts to the truck.
I love how that shows too, where it's like you see, it's like, oh, Bucky's got the most experience. He's gonna like save them, and I love how too the way that they introduce him to the Thunderbolts, where he comes in and saves their asses, where like they're getting chased across the desert by like multiple Humvees, and then of course like Yelena thinks she's blown one up. And then, Red Guardian tries to use a Molotov cocktail, which is quite funny. And then Bucky comes in and takes him out in like 3 seconds, which is like, yeah, that's what I was hearing. I'm like, yeah, that's that Winter Soldier energy right there. And
I love the T2 reference.
Yes, that was great. And then also Bucky with the long hair. I swear, Bucky's going through his Ethan Hunt phases with the hair, where every other instance is
in the post-credit scene, like it's very
so
luscious.
It's so good.
He shaved his head in real life, so
yes, that's clearly a way. Yeah, we'll get into the post-credit scene as well, because it's immediately apparent that was not shot by Jake
I'm like,
Schreier.
whoa, this is very yellow.
This looks crazy, and then you see, that's they already shot that for when they started shooting Doomsday. So like I said,
see the theme in the credits. I'm like, stop reading the credits.
Yeah,
but like I kind of had suspected it was coming, but it was like. Oh.
Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to the post-credit scene. Yeah. I want to talk about Sentry first, because again, we've been building up to it a bit. Again, I think I have made it no secret. This is the movie's highlight. This is the movie's like kind of whenever the movie focuses on this character, this is where it is at its strongest. And ultimately, this was not only the saving grace, but I even wrote in my review how I think Lewis Pullman in general is going to be the takeaway story from this, because I think that you saw his usage in this movie, and I think he is going to play a very big part once we get into Doomsday. As far as the Sentry character goes, and I thought that everything that the movie does revolves around him. He's kind of starts out as like the what's it called? Oh my God, what's the fucking term? As the MacGuffin, if you will. He starts out as the MacGuffin of the movie, where again they've been sent to kind of die and be incinerated in this one compound, only to discover him there. And they're like, who the fuck is this guy? And it becomes apparently clear that like, he was this test subject for this trial, and they do a pretty good job, I think, of like building and layering in the fact that Valentina was conducting these experiments in order to try and create a new form of super soldier. Previously it was thought that all the test subjects had died. Now it turns out this guy Bob survived, and then we get into his backstory a little bit more, and you're like, oh, like what? And then once again, it's so well done how it's done, where it's like, this dude is like severely traumatized from parental abuse, multiple personality disorder, a drug addict too. He's confirmed to like have been a meth head. He's been trying to like find his purpose. He was recruited while wandering around Southeast Asia. As you do. And I get a little White Lotus reference in there as well. And then you have the reveal that like, oh no, this is Bob Reynolds, the Sentry. And I feel like every comic book fan who knows who the Sentry is and what they're capable of realizes that, it's like we all collectively like shit a brick, especially with the reveal not only of the end of like, him becoming the Sentry, but also the reveal of the Void. And where the that
Void
goes
was done
ultimately.
so perfectly. Like me as a non-knowledge of the Sentry, and you're like, okay, he's like a Superman type strength character, but then there's the Void, which is like, okay, I don't really know anything about that. And I thought they did it really, really well. Like something new that we haven't seen. It's not just two Super Saiyans punching each other through a building. It's like, okay, we're gonna use this to nail the emotional core of the movie. I'm like, okay, no big punch up. And it works all the better for it, I thought.
Instead, what the third act turns into is an Age of Ultron-esque Dreamland, where all these characters are kind of going through all their respective bad memories. But in terms of the Sentry, you're right. Basically, what happened there was Marvel was basically like, okay, what if, initially, I believe the idea was, okay, what if we took Superman but made him flawed? And then it kind of evolved to, let's take Superman. What if he had multiple personalities? What if, again, he was heavily, heavily flawed? Drug addict volunteered for this scientific procedure, ultimately. I don't think they adapted like fully, but they do a lot of illusion. But the whole thing is that Bob Reynolds, the character, is somebody who has multiple personality disorder. Again, it's basically like, what if we took kind of the problems and afflictions that the Hulk has, where again the Hulk is all powerful, but because it's an alternate personality, it's, this dark side, this Jekyll and Hyde side. That's why when the Hulk is like this alternate personality that takes over and is more animal-like than human. He loses control. He has the capability of causing wanton, unknown destruction. And the Sentry is similar to that, but basically in Superman form, where again he has this alternate, this dark personality called the Void, where if he's not careful, the Void can come out and cause unwanton damage, because nobody kind of knows where the Void's allegiance lies. But other than that, like I said, he's bulletproof, invulnerable. He can fly, and also he's can use the Force apparently too.
He has telekinesis.
Telekinesis, basically.
That's the official term for it.
There's very little that he can't do ultimately, but as is shown, it shows that like he's not quite in control, and also he does have a little bit of a god complex that Valentina does place in him ultimately, because he's shown to again be very insecure. He's like, I don't really know what my purpose is. I want to help ultimately, and it's kind of and again the reveal of how they do that is great, where Yelena is unintentionally saying all these things to him that are only making things worse. Where she's like, yeah, depression, just cram it down ultimately, just keep your focus, do your job, don't let it out. And then he tries to help them by sacrificing himself. And then the reveal also, again, another thing that they spoiled in the goddamn trailers. Like that would have been an awesome reveal if we'd gone into that machine and lit up by a million bullets, and then he gets up, his eyes are glowing, and you're like, oh, like this is not just some fucking random passerby science experiment. This might be.
And then he takes off. Like, and then he takes off. Sky.
Literally, I'm like, okay. And again, this is now, I understand why Marvel was comfortable now introducing this character. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, if they would have been able to introduce a character like the Sentry pre-COVID, and I'm like, yeah, no, that would not have worked at all, because I'm just imagining, like, him going up against somebody like Thor or Thanos or the Hulk, because that's the other thing, too, is that in the comics, Thor and the Hulk are not the strongest Marvel characters. It's the Sentry. He is the strongest Marvel character. And, so, like I said, this is coming off of a couple of different evil Supermen that we've been witnessing across, different mediums. Homelander on The Boys, Omni-Man on Invincible. Amazon really seemed to have cornered the market on that. Richard Madden as character also previously in Eternals. The character in Brightburn, whose name I'm currently forgetting. There's one more also that I'm forgetting as well. But the evil Superman types have been kind of populated throughout pop culture up until this point. And this is Marvel's turn to do it. And again, he's kind of the original evil Superman, if you really want to think about it. And again, it ties into the emotional crux of the movie, where again, he is doing this because he feels lost. He feels alone. He's got a very, very traumatic past. And ultimately, when he's unleashed, and he unleashes basically this depression wave, this alternate dimension that's just sucking people in and turning them into shadows, you have this very, very, I thought, funny moment where, again, it's like, it shows how twisted up Gen Z is, where when you have this, like, actual traumatic moment where Red Guardian is, like, holding a child next to you, she, like, disappears into shadow once Bob's kill switch is triggered, that causes him to turn into the void.
One more thing I want to get your opinion. What do you think of the suit? I think it works really well.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
It's like, it crosses the line between good and, like, corporate marketing goofy.
Well, it's perfect because that's the Sentry's uniform in the comic. So in terms of that being like, this is what corporate marketing said would look good, with the blonde hair and everything. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. And Lewis Pullman, again, he's another, and in a weird way, it's funny because this movie has two Nepo babies and nobody's talking about it. Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell's son, and Lewis Pullman, who is the son of Bill Pullman, the president in Independence Day. And again, we've been seeing him like pop up in a couple of efforts here and there. Like I said, he was infamously, like kind of the more nervous, timid one of the pilots in Top Gun Maverick. You also had him, for me, his appearance was as the timid, as the timid hotel concierge in Bad Times at the El Royale, which is a very, very slept on, underrated movie that I would heavily recommend. But it's so funny to think that this was originally going to be Steven Yeun, and how they really nailed it with a recasting where the strikes kind of did them the biggest favor, where again, they said that this movie was delayed because of the strikes, and as a result, Steven Yeun had to back out because of filming conflicts with Mickey 17 and Invincible, and I think a couple other things. So they end up getting Lewis Pullman, and it's one of the few instances where recasting actually works way better, because I'm imagining Steven Yeun in this part. Not only would it not have worked at all, but it would have really been a disaster, because again, the movie lives and dies by the Sentry and his casting, and Lewis Pullman is so unbelievably perfect for this part, specifically for the part of Bob Reynolds, even before he becomes the Sentry. Like what did you think of his performance in general?
I thought he was awesome, because he starts off as this he's just a kind of a goofy guy who doesn't know why he's there. He's just like, okay, I'll go with these guys. They seem cool. And then you get that first turn, like where they start shooting at him. Like, does he even know that he is? You get those hints, like he touches them, like they start having these flashback visions. And then he goes and distracts them, and he starts shooting. Like they all shoot him, and it's like, oh wait, and then he's like, and he takes off, and then that kind of kickstarts his Sentry arc, if you will. They definitely planned on Steven Yeun, because they call him Invincible like 4 or 5 times, which is like okay. But Lewis Pullman, I loved him in this. I'm excited to see how they use him in Doomsday, because he's too much of a force. Like he's by the end of the movie, he's kind of dormant, but he's like, okay, he's too big to put back in the box. So I'm excited to see where he goes from there.
Yeah, especially with the reveal of the new Avengers, and you're like, oh, I get it. He's like their new big gun. He's their new Hulk. Because remember, in those early days of the Avengers, they would really only pull out the Hulk when they really needed him. But for the most part, they were like, sit back. But essentially, since he's basically like Hulk and Thor mixed into one, because you look at the rest of the Jokers, and this is kind of, again, where my biggest flaw comes from. Like, I get that, like, you needed like a new team of Avengers and this works. And I'm assuming, again, this is part of like one of several super teams. I was literally even doing the draft style breakdown, especially with the most recent reveal of like the second batch of characters that they're going to introduce as well. Again, this is a movie that is already going to include whatever team of Avengers Sam Wilson assembles, the Fantastic Four, what's left of the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Young Avengers, and the original Fox X-Men. So this is a movie that is going to include all of those. And so basically you have these guys now that you're kind of throwing in there. And I was already skeptical when they announced these guys as part of that initial casting that we talked about several weeks ago. And now with the reveal that like, oh, they are the new Avengers. Obviously, yes, it's a political move from Valentina in order to save her ass. But just from a logistical standpoint, I'm looking at it. I'm like, the second Black Widow, two discount super soldiers, the Winter Soldier, and a chick who walks through walls.
A ghost.
This is the new team of Avengers compared to Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and the Hulk. This is our new team, and all of like the new side characters that they added. Like your Visions, your Scarlet Witches, your Falcons. This is who we have now protecting us. Like
I think that's a question that's going to be explored like within like the first half of Doomsday or so. What is the Avengers? What like who is it? What do they stand for? Like are the Fantastic Four like part of the Avengers? Like because that's just the title of these big event movies. Like it isn't necessarily Avengers Doomsday. It's just what's been established with the previous 4 entries. So
right.
And they do banter at the post credit scene, like
right,
hey,
exactly. Well, that's the thing too. Is
they
say again. So they've confirmed that this post credit scene, like the first post credit scene, is like it's a goofy thing. You don't really need to be there for it. But this post credit scene, they have confirmed this was shot by the Russo brothers, not by Jake Schreier. This was a scene taken from Doomsday. This is a thing that Marvel's done before, where they take a scene from an upcoming movie and they put that as the post credit scene. It basically
shows a way to do it.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a couple things that are hinted at. Sam is suing them for copyright infringement, which I think is funny. Bucky's attempted to have a talk with them, but apparently they're not on good terms. So that's already
they bring in Matt Murdock as the lawyer.
Yeah, that would be really funny if that's how they added Matt Murdock. That would actually be really great. And he's like, guys, I'm a criminal lawyer, not a copyright lawyer. Maybe I can get my brother involved in that. So that's already kind of setting us up for like this Civil War-esque conflict that's going to happen between presumably the team of Avengers that Sam assembles and this new team of, again, Dark Avengers. Like I said, we have the Young Avengers out there that Miss Marvel is shown to be start assembling at the end of the Marvels. You've got the Fantastic Four are on their way, as we see in the post-credit scene. That's the big reveal, is that they are getting a signal from a satellite in space. We see the Fantastic Four ship barreling towards Earth. So you get a nice little reveal there. That was cool. You start to play a little bit of their music in the background. Like I said, they have confirmed that what's left of this new iteration of the Guardians that we saw Rocket and Groot leading at the end of Volume 3, that's now consisting of Phyla, Adam Warlock, and Cosmo. Cracklin will unfortunately not be there because Sean Gunn is exclusively with James Gunn. But it did confirm that Quill and Nebula would be returning as well. We got a confirmation of several other people who are missing. Like I said, the Hulk, She-Hulk, Wonder Man is also supposedly confirmed to be in Doomsday. A couple of the people that I'm forgetting about, the members of the TVA, all of the side characters, Okoye, Wong, Valkyrie. All of them are going to be confirmed to be in there. Nick Fury is confirmed to be in Doomsday. So I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot
Tom
of
Holland, right?
No Tom Holland.
Yeah,
That's
he's got his own movie.
He's got his own, but yeah, he's filming Odyssey and he'll be in Brand New Day. And then, like I said, they're gonna save him ultimately. I also think there may be a secret Miles Morales casting happening right now that they're not telling us about, but that's just a rumor, a theory on my mind. So I do still think it is funny that like this is technically going to be the team of Avengers that we're gonna have going into Doomsday. I think that's the funniest thing, especially since again compared to like even like who's left on the OG team of Avengers. Sam, Thor, Hulk, Ant-Man, Hawkeye, War Machine, and even the new guys.
Hawkeye's not going to be there because they don't want to pay him.
Yeah, true.
No.
Shang-Chi, what's it called? Well, that was just for season 2. We'll see you at Doomsday. But yeah, even so, the new members: Shang-Chi, She-Hulk, Shuri, Wonder Man. If he ends up jumping right from Wonder Man, because Wonder Man, I believe, is going to be the last thing that we get before Doomsday comes out, and all of that. And I'm just like, these guys over all of them, like it's just funny to me. because
And then
Sentry.
Moon Knight's in his corner somewhere.
Moon Knight's in his own corner somewhere, like Midnight Suns is happening soon. I promise. It's just, man, after reading that Kang Dynasty script and seeing, like, okay, so they were planning on bringing in everybody that they had introduced ultimately. That was the plan. Would it have worked? Who knows? But because there was still a little bit too much happening in that script. But
also in the post-credits scene, they do allude to a space crisis, which is like,
right,
incursion type stuff.
Yep, that could be something interesting. Like I said, either way, I'm very excited for Doomsday. And in terms of like setting this up, getting us excited for Doomsday, that post-credits scene did a good job. But this movie did very well in terms of giving us like kind of a nice little grounded action character piece as well, rather than have this be like, trying to set up all these things for Doomsday. It's like, no, we've had enough of the multiverse shit, the incursion shit. We've sat through all that. Now let's just get a nice little character focused piece. Fantastic Four is going to be the big gonzo event that all the money has been put into. Like, that movie looks amazing. It's set in it's for the most part disconnected from the rest of the MCU, and that's
they say extra dimensional ship, which
exactly
is like full on confirmation that it is a different universe if we didn't already have it. So
exactly, they're going to like I said, Fantastic Four is going to be our Thor Ragnarok in terms of that's going to be the one that sets us up directly for Doomsday. So yeah, it's in terms of setting up the Fantastic Four as kind of being like the new epicenters of the MCU that are kind of going to take the reins, and then obviously we have the X-Men coming as well. We'll say goodbye to the original team of X-Men in Doomsday and Secret Wars, and then we will move on to the new iteration, the MCU's X-Men as well post Secret Wars once we're past all this multiverse stuff. So. But overall, Thunderbolt. Also, again, another random confirmation that Julie Louis-Dreyfus' assistant, played by Geraldine Viswanathan. I thought she was an interesting character. I thought the line where she's like, "Oh yeah, I was still in high school when the aliens came." That just was like, I'm like, fuck. I'm like, that means that girl's my age. Good lord. And they constantly reference her like, yeah, it's been like over 10 years since the first Avengers, and I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, I'm getting so old because I still have such fond memories of the Avengers, and the fact that it's been 13 years since
it's been
that
10
movie.
since Ultron.
Oh my god, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. But overall, where would you so what are your final thoughts to star rating for Thunderbolts? And now I want to play this little game with you as well. So we have now officially wrapped phase 5. I know we still technically have Ironheart coming. Marvel's going to disregard that. So again, a couple glaring omissions for me. I did not watch Echo. I did not watch Agatha all along. And I also don't count any of the animated entries, so any of the animated small entries. So no What If seasons 2 or 3, no X-Men 97, no Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So now that we've officially wrapped phase 5, which started 2 years ago with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, how would you rank kind of like the big major things that we've gotten so far in phase 5? So basically the way that I consider it is it's
let me just pull up so I can all see all of it.
Yeah. For me, it's Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Secret Invasion, Loki Season 2, The Marvels, Deadpool and Wolverine, Brave New World, Daredevil, Born Again, and this, Thunderbolts.
So the movie-wise, I would say Guardians 3 is the best one. I think that's pretty flat. Oh man, this was not a good phase.
It really wasn't. It makes us look back at phase 4 and be like, maybe we were a little too hard on phase 4. Then you look at some of the worst in phase 4.
I think we can divide this in half. So we have Guardians, Thunderbolts, and Deadpool is a good half, and then you have Ant-Man, Brave New World, and the Marvels as the not so great half. So I think we can split that line there. A 50-50 rate isn't great.
Yes, it's not. And then also you kind of have in a weird way, you also have that with the 3 TV shows, because Secret Invasion is dog shit. Loki Season 2 is really good. And then Daredevil Born Again is kind of somewhere in the middle where it's not awful, but it's like showing signs.
It's the best representative of the creative overhaul.
Exactly. The way that I had it ranked is I had Secret Invasion at the bottom, all the way at the bottom, then Brave New World, then The Marvels, then Quantumania. Then I had Thunderbolts right in the middle. Then I had Deadpool and Wolverine. Then, oh wait, I'm missing one. Hold on. Deadpool and Wolverine. Shit, what am I missing? Oh, sorry, no. So then I had Thunderbolts, Born Again, then Deadpool and Wolverine, Loki Season 2, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is number 1 for Phase 5.
I watched an episode and a half of Secret Invasion. I watched of Loki was good. Echo, I didn't bother. Agatha all along, I watched half an episode. Okay, I get it. And Daredevil Born Again. Obviously, that was good for the most part.
The only scene of Echo that I watched was the fight scene between her and Daredevil in the pilot.
I watched that on YouTube.
That was it. And that was it. That was the only thing I watched. I'm like, I'm good. I got my Daredevil fix. I know Born Again is coming. We're good. Like, I'm very, very happy with how this goes. So yeah,
We're
thanks.
on to bigger and
We're
better
under
things.
it, bigger and better things. Fantastic Four will be kicking off Phase 6. We have Fantastic Four, Wonder Man, Doomsday, Brand New Day, Secret Wars. They'll throw in a couple of other things there. Again, I have to assume that Doctor Strange 3 will come out in between Doomsday and Secret Wars as well, because like
Ooh,
I
you
feel like
think
there's
so?
going to be. I would assume so. Like, there's got to be like some crucial stuff that happens with Doctor Strange, especially with how Multiverse of Madness ended. He just goes into the dark dimension with Clea and just throw Charlize Theron in there and be like, oh yeah, she's in the MCU now in a post-credits scene. You're like, what? Like, how many people probably even remember that Charlize Theron was there? Like I said, there's a lot that they're saving for post-Secret Wars. They scrapped Armor Wars. That's not happening. Blade, if that still happens, they're gonna have that take place past Secret Wars, Midnight Suns.
Yeah.
Like I said, the big thing that I know that they're focusing on and building up to is X-Men. That's really what they want to focus on. They want to
Which
kind of
is
leave all
good.
this. Yeah, it's very
We
good.
want that.
Yes. Eternals 2 is not happening. Captain Marvel 3 is not happening. Ant-Man 4 is not happening. All these different projects, like I said, they want to move on. They want to leave this phase of themselves behind. And like I said, this was a step in the right direction. So I have a feeling that they could possibly do that. I gave this movie 4 out of 5 stars, which again is being generous because it wasn't a 3.5. It wasn't, but I could not give this a 4.5. Like I said, it's solid. It's very good. It's a step in the right direction. Is it perfect? No, but it does everything that it needs to do. So yeah, it's good. I don't have this like up there in terms of this year either. Like, I still have a couple movies over this. Like, I have Novocaine, Warfare, and Mickey 17 all ranked, and Black Bag all ranked above this.
Yeah, I agree. I have it a 4 stars out of 5. I think the main thing is that Marvel made the real movie again, and like, especially compared to the last one, like comparing just the last 2 entries, like, oh my, like, this is the same studio,
night and
like,
day.
So a very competently made film, character first, story first, action second, practicality first, of course, as well. For me, it's my second movie of the year, behind obviously Sinners.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be there for a while.
Yeah, that's one of those instances, kind of like Get Out or Into the Spider-Verse, where people are like, oh, you don't like this movie? What the fuck is wrong with you? Kind of things.
Yeah, and like, even us, we're like, okay, it's not like perfect.
Yeah, it's
very
not like
good.
perfect, but it's very good. Again, you have to take the year that the movie comes out into consideration, and considering just how like dead it's been up until this point. Like, Thunderbolts is, I feel like the fact that the only other movie that people were really talking about besides Sinners is the re-release of Revenge of the Sith for the 20-year anniversary. That should tell you how much of a dire state movies are in right now.
And in terms of MCU, it's in my top 10. It's like the latter half of the top 10. I think I will be doing a very long rewatch before Doomsday. So
yeah,
just spreading it out over this year, because it comes out in less than a year. Which is crazy.
Literally a year from now is Doomsday. Again, this is not in my top 10 MCU. This would probably be an honorable mentions. Like, the more now with hindsight, honestly, like some of the efforts from what's it called? Like I said, the only efforts so far that have cracked top 10 overall are No Way Home and Guardians 3 from this post MCU phase. But Wakanda Forever, Deadpool, and Wolverine are both very strong honorable mentions as well up there. And I would throw this in honorable mentions as well. It wouldn't be like very high up. There's a lot from the first 3 phases that I would still have above this movie. But like I said, it's a strong, solid effort. It puts character first. It is a great new character introduction. And yeah, there's only so much that I could really fault it for. It does what it needs to do. It's a step in the right direction. It's Marvel showing its audience, yes, we are still capable of making movies in general, not just kind of like these swan song goodbyes to these arcs that were left over from the first 3 phases. So I give them a lot of credit for that. And now it's just, all I say, it's onward to Fantastic Four and then Doomsday after that, and then we'll see if Ironheart and Wonder Man.
That's crazy. Like, Fantastic Four and Doomsday are the next 2 Marvel movies.
Crazy.
Like, okay, we're finally here.
Finally. But again, it took us 10 years to get from Iron Man to Infinity War. It's taken us 4 years to get from WandaVision. Well, 5 years by the time the Doomsday comes out. 5 years to get from WandaVision to Doomsday. What the hell happened is all that I got to say. And like I said, we'll see if these stupid Trump tariffs that he announced are going to take effect.
I will say we've gotten more within these 5 years than we had in the last 10 years in terms of content minutes.
Yes, and I feel like that's part of the reason why we are exhausted ultimately. So with that being said, like I said, thank you, Luke. Well, like I said, we're still going to be recapping Lost every week, so look out for that. Like I said, in terms of the actual movie reviews, our next big movie review, as I put out in that little like snippet that I revealed beforehand, we will be doing Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning Memorial Day weekend in order to celebrate, the end of the Mission Impossible kind of wave as well. And we'll also be capping off our Mission Impossible rewatch series that we'll be doing. Like I said, Rogue Nation will be up and ready to go tomorrow, so be ready for that. And what's it called? Luke, you already plugged your socials, so we're good there. And yeah, we'll see you guys for the final reckoning and next week. And like I said, we'll still see you guys every week for Lost. So in the meantime, watch more movies. We will see you guys next time.